Well, hello. Welcome back to another exciting edition of, this time Whisky with Stephen. This week's blog is entitled Edward One Sick Sunu. That- as many of you know, about a week and a half ago, my father in law passed away. Um, Sandy has been obviously in mourning, but last Wednesday we had our funeral for him. And, I've known my father in law, obviously, well, since I married Sandy and a little bit before that, so for almost 25 years. And there was a lot of things about his personal history that I was aware of. And there are things about sort of the storied family history in general that I've always known. Um, but the actual funeral and the drafting of the obituary and the entire ceremonial process really was interesting. I learned a deeper level of understanding of Edward and the life that he led. And the blog does go over some of the trials and the tribulations that he and my mother in law, Kathy, experienced emigrating from Seoul, Korea to the United States in 1969. It also goes through some of the things that we don't necessarily think about when we think about the immigrant experience. When they arrived here in the United States, Sandy was 2 years old. Edward had no job lined up. Kathy was a nurse and did have some form of employment already established. But they literally arrived with $300, three sets of chopsticks, and a rice cooker, and extremely limited command of the English language. There was not a large scale Korean community already established in the United States. To a large extent, they were somewhat pioneers. So they had to learn to navigate all of the bureaucratic intricacies that exist in America. And they were able to do so, and they were able to thrive. In fact, they became successful enough that they were able to bring over all of their extended family, and they themselves became citizens. Now, Edward was also the first of the brothers. He was the eldest brother. And in the Korean culture, that comes with a tremendous level of responsibility. So they weren't just sponsoring the younger brothers and their families, they were financially sponsoring them as well. So there was really a tremendous amount of pressure, both social as well as economic, that Edward had to deal with throughout his life. Now, one of the other aspects of the Sunu family that needs to be discussed, and I mentioned it in the blog, is one of their very, very famous ancestors. If you've never heard of him, his name is, well, typically referred to as Admiral Yi. Back in the 1500s, Admiral Yi, for all intents and purposes, single handedly defeated the entire Japanese Navy. Now, Admiral Yi wasn't just an admiral, he was also a general. So on land, he also defeated the Japanese invaders. This guy literally was a one man military operation, and interestingly enough, a successful one at that. And I go through some of the exploits and how other military leaders throughout history have viewed Admiral Yi. But that feature in Sandy's family's history, that DNA runs through all of the subsequent generations. And I certainly see the level of just raw stick to itiveness, for lack of a better term. I see it in the life that Edward lived. I see it certainly in my mother in law, who still survives. I definitely see it in Sandy, and we've seen it in both Cheney and Carolyn. This passion for excellence and for achievement, it's something that isn't naturally occurring. It's something biologic that sort of manifests throughout these multiple generations. Anyways, I do hope that you read the blog this Wednesday. Of course, it comes out Wednesday morning. As always, I want you to train constantly, train consistently, train repetitively, and train with purpose. Above all else, stay safe. And to Edward, to better pastures.